Hello, this is Mike Lanier from CarShowNationals.com. Let's roll. Here with Jeff Thisted.
Hey guys, how are you? We're
Hot
rolling.
Rod Power Tour. We're rolling, and we are rolling with Mark Greene from Cars.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing today? Good to see you again.
There it is.
Good to see you,
Yeah,
Mark.
we had Mark on the Car Owner Virus podcast. We had a bunch of influencers on there, about 30 people, and Mark was nice enough to join us for that. And we had never really talked before that, so it was just interesting. But I know what you do, and I've been watching what you're doing. So I always find you very interesting. And you've had, 1,500? You're probably over 59 guests now. What do you got now?
Yeah. I think this morning was 1,561 guests on the Cars Yeah podcast. And actually, Thursday of this week, the 28th, is Cars Yeah's 6th birthday. So, I should have brought a cake to the party here. We could have enjoyed blow out some candles and some birthday cake. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people, including you two characters. I'm very grateful. Yeah. You guys were on back-to-back. You were, show 1533 and 1534, so not that long ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Good old 1533 and 1534. Two of my favorite episodes, really.
Well, yes, they're everybody's. Yes, everybody's. Yeah. And, someday I figure 1,000 years from now, some space aliens will land on this planet and they'll be looking through all this data and they'll go, who is this Mike and Jeff guy? What are they doing on this show talking about these things called, I wonder what cars are. So, well, you'll be there in perpetuity.
You've been around for 6 years. I mean, me and Jeff started doing this, the last couple of months. I think it's interesting, and you learn a lot about people, and I know you have with all the people that you've had throughout the years. What's kind of like your favorite podcast that you've ever done, or favorite guest?
Okay, you can't ask me that because that'd be like asking me what my favorite car is or my favorite child is. You can't ask about my favorite wife because I've only had one of those.
Wait, you don't have a favorite car? Come on, be honest. I know it's that. Is it kind of that color with sparkles and ends in a 30?
You're talking. Well, that's the current
one
favorite
of 3?
car.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you listened. Very good.
Dude, that thing is badass. And I knew one of my friends, ACP, has one that he got for cheap. And then I talked to a buddy of mine, Bill Gazinski, and Bill's got this collection of all these white cars, and he's telling me, yeah, Jeff, my first car was a 930. It's like, wait, what? My first car was a VW Bug. My friend Tim Strange's first car was a 55 or a 57 Chevy. And his was a 930. It's like, what? So
well, anyway, different zip codes. Different zip codes. That's the problem.
Yeah. So anyway, for those of you at home who don't know what we're talking about, Mark has got a super bitchin' Porsche 930 with factory paint. And nobody believes him. It's factory paint, but it's one of 3 painted in, what is it, orange crush? Like an orange metallic?
I call it my orange crush. I'm trying to get something here to show you guys.
The Porsche 930, it's a derivative of the 911, a little bit rarer than the 911. Years ago, you could find them for not necessarily a dime a dozen, and lately they're going for 6 figure. There you go. Look at you sick bastard.
It's got a
That's
model.
So cool. Yeah.
A friend of mine, Jake Gunnarsson, he was one of the camera guys when I was doing Cars Yeah television last year. He builds basically, they're kind of like scratch models, although he finds the platform, but then he highly, highly customizes. I don't want to drop it. And
a little bit higher. A little bit higher?
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
There you go.
In fact, if you look, and I don't want the back to come off, on the back window is a Cars Yeah sticker.
Oh, man. That's
how crazy. Yeah, I mean, he got the rear wiper option, which is a rare option on this car. The engine is just fully detailed.
Oh, wow. And the bonnet even comes off.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, he's even got the little factory stickers that are on the bottom plate there.
That's amazing. I just saw online earlier this week that Rolls-Royce will do that for if you buy a Rolls-Royce, whatever their SUV is, or their Wraith, their Silverclad Phantom, they'll build you a bespoke model of it. I think it's a 1/18th size, but it costs about $20,000.
Well, of course, but I mean, I'm thinking if you have one of those, you need to have one on your dresser so you can look at it before you go to sleep at night and dream sweet dreams. But no, he was nice enough to do this he did it as a complete surprise. He's never seen my car. But one time he said, hey, would you send me some pictures? And I put my car out there a lot. I use it on social media because it's my Orange Crush. I've had it for 11 years. Found it on eBay one night. And so I sent him all these pictures, and then for months I didn't hear from him. I thought, I don't know what he's doing. And all of a sudden this thing shows up in the mail. I'm like, he even got the color right, which this color is a 6-stage pearl metallic. They only painted 3 cars this color, the factory.
At the factory.
Yeah, it's at the factory. It's all original still to this day. 33 years old. It's in perfect condition. Got 41,000 miles. So I do drive it. It's not a garage queen. It gets driven and enjoyed. On sunny days, I try to keep it out of the rain, but it's got a few sprinkles on it. I live in the Northwest, so it's hard to not get rained on up here. But Jake did an incredible job. He just blew me away. I mean, it's one of my little prize cars here. So, yeah, it's pretty darn cool.
Wow. So you found it on eBay.
Yeah.
$930 on eBay. Not in Hemmings, not in Auto Trader, not in the Porsche File magazine. eBay. Well, a $930, come on.
I know. Well, here's the story, and I'll try to condense it because it's a little bit long. But it was Sunday night. A friend of mine called me and said, hey, I know you've always wanted a 930. I had just sold my 72 911S, and that I sold for a bloody fortune because I had that car for like 15 years, and the prices went through the roof. And I used that money to pay for my son's last 3 years of college. And so I was feeling a little dejected, but, I'm happy to send my kid to school. I don't want him to have any debt, nor me, after college. And my wife said, why don't you take a little bit of that money from the 911S and find yourself a cheap Porsche, older Porsche that you can enjoy and have some fun. Well, bless my wife. So glad I married her. She's the smart one in the house for sure. And so I started searching, and this guy I know called me and said, hey, there's this really unique car, and it might get a little noisy in a second here. The gardeners are buzzing, so bear with me, but they'll go by quick.
It's funny how you said that your wife said, why don't you use this to find a cheaper Porsche? And usually the C word and 930 don't go together, ever.
Well, remember, Jeff, this was 11 years ago, and we know markets for cars do this, right? I mean, They go up, they go down. Right now, the market's kind of been flat. It's been a little odd. I do a second podcast called Buy, Sell, Hold with Keith Martin from Sports Car Market Magazine, and we interview people who work in the industry of buying and selling cars. So these are auction houses, guys that buy and sell cars, high-end collectors. In fact, today we're doing this show. I have Max Girardo on the show from Girardo & Company. They're in the UK, and they sell really high-end stuff. And when I did an interview with him, he had the Holy Grail 73 RS Carrera in the showroom, and a 300S Maserati, and Michael Schumacher's first Ferrari F1 car he ever raced in.
You had me at Schumacher. You got Schumacher.
Yeah, but going back to my eBay find, so this guy calls me, he says, hey, I know you've always wanted a 930. The prices are at about the lowest point they've ever been at. And there's this really unique one on eBay. So I log in about an hour before the auction's done. I'm looking at it, and I'm going, okay, it doesn't make sense. Well, the owner had his detailer post it. His detailer knew nothing about Porsches. So the whole description was completely bizarre. It was things like custom hot rod paint, custom seats, twin turbocharged. They didn't twin turbocharge 930s.
Yeah.
So everything was wrong. The pictures weren't that good. So I'm looking at who's bidding, and there's 2 guys are bidding in $50 increments. They're just bouncing around in the shallow end of the pool. And so I'm looking at this going, something doesn't make sense with this posting. It looks like a really nice car, but that color, Porsche never painted that color. So I asked the guy, because he said, I'm selling it for a friend. Well, sometimes that's code for stolen car. The car doesn't exist, whatever it might be. So I emailed him, and I said, hey, I need to know you actually have possession of this car. Send me the title. So he faxed me the title. And I look at it. Well, I was working at the time for a company called Griot's Garage. I worked there for 20 plus years, helped build that brand. And so I'm at home, so I can log into the Griot's Garage mainframe and looked for that customer. It was in Carmel, Indiana, which is an affluent part of Indianapolis, up northeast there. And I find the guy, and I call him. Well, here's this guy who his car is being sold by someone else. Turns out he had a collection of cars. And he goes, hello? And I said, hi, my name is Mark Greene. I'm calling about the orange Porsche you have for sale. He's, how'd you get my number? He was I thought he was going to hang up on me. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm the president of Griot's Garage. You're a good time, long time good customer. I'm just interested in the car. All of a sudden, he was my best friend. So he goes, oh, yeah, the car. Well, let me tell you. So he tells me this whole elaborate story. And I'm going, okay, this doesn't jive with what the guy who has the car listed is saying. And so I said, okay, so you're, nice car. He goes, oh, yeah, I have lots of cars. And said, yeah, it's great. And custom ordered it and all this whole thing. So I went back and, waited to the last 30 seconds and threw in a bid and boom, got it. So the car arrived and it was as nice as I thought it was going to be. You never know when you don't inspect a car, right? Everything looks good online. The cars, the dates, the women you might want to meet.
Hey,
and you see them in real life. Well, not me because I'm married for 35 years, but maybe you wild guys. But at any rate, the car shows up. It's great. The only problem with it is it had been sitting for a long time and not driven a lot. So Porsches or all cars don't sit well, right? So took it to my good buddy. He went through it, changed all the oil lines, fixed all the leaks. It changed from being the Exxon Valdez to the Orange Crush. And I call it my Orange Crush because from the minute I saw it, I had a crush on it. And, of course, it's a play on words. So, yeah, so it showed up. That was 11 years ago. And here's the kicker. Last year, I get an email from a guy, and he said, I need to talk to you about your car. He found me on Instagram. And so I get a lot of people wanting to ask me about the car. So I email him back, and I said, yeah. And he goes, I need to call you. Okay. So he calls me, and he said, tell me where you got that car. So I told him the story, and he said, that's not really the real story. And so then you start to go, okay, used cars always have stories, right? And I start to go, uh-oh, what's going on? Well, I had all the paperwork on that car, and I've been to Germany. I've been to the factory, picked up a car at the factory, and I know what the paperwork looks like. And one of the documents, which is a document you sign when you take delivery of the car at the factory, and I knew this car was a European delivery car, but it was a U.S. spec car. All three of them were. There was this woman's name on there, and I never understood who she was because that's not the last name nor the wife of the guy who I got the car from. So I listened to this story. Well, it turns out that this gentleman who owned a Porsche dealership, to get better allotments from Porsche, would custom order cars and pretend they were customer cars. And so the customer, he would fill out an order and say, my customer wants to buy this crazy colored car. And then he would send his employees to Germany to pick the car up. They'd take possession, hand the keys back, and say, ship it back. I don't want to drive it, which is not uncommon for European delivery. So this kid said, when I was in high school, my dad ordered one Porsche in this crazy color that he found when he was in Germany once, but they told him he had to order three. They wouldn't just paint one.
Oh, wow.
And I'm listening to this story, and I said, okay, wait a minute. And I pulled the paperwork out, and I said, what's this lady's name on the delivery doc? Hey, there's my car. Jeff just posted a picture of it. There you go. There's the Orange Crush. Yeah, I just shot that about last month in my neighborhood here. Nice. So I said, what's this lady? Who is she? And he laughed. He goes, that was my dad's finance manager's wife. Oh. He would send people from the dealership, and he sent the finance manager and his wife for a week in Germany if they would pick the car up and pretend like they were the owners. Then the car shipped to the dealership, and then he would sell them. But apparently that gave him better allotments for better ordering. Well, now, since then, that gentleman has sold that dealership. It's owned by another company now. I won't name any names. I don't think you could get in trouble at this point because, the 7 or 14 years up or whatever it was. But this guy said, I used to sit in your car in my dad's garage and dream of owning this thing when I was in high school. I'd invite all my friends over because he said your car was the last of the three sold. So it's that, Paul Harvey, the rest of the story that comes out.
That's so cool. And
I know.
At the beginning of the story, you said that your buddy called up and said, hey, I found this thing on eBay. I know you're looking for a 930. Now, why the 930? Why not a 911, 911S, 935, 920? Why the 930?
Okay, great. Thanks for asking that, by the way. Well, I've always loved Porsche 911s. That's always been my dream car since I was a little kid. And when I first started working out of college, I really wanted one. I couldn't afford one, and I had this poster of a red 911 coupe above my desk. And that was my motivation every day. I'd look up at that poster and say, work hard, Mark, you can buy a car. And eventually bought a red 911, just like that. And I'd had many 911s throughout the years, different cars. I always drove them. They were always daily drivers, no garage queens or trophy queens or anything. But in the 80s, let's go back to the 70s. I grew up in La Jolla, California. So it was an affluent zip code, right?
Yeah, where do you go to vacation from La Jolla? Iceland? Alaska?
You go to Windy Sea Beach and you go surfing.
Oh, you're killing me.
Or you go to Black's.
La Jolla. Have you been to La Jolla, Mark? Yeah, Black's is the nude beach. La
well,
Jolla, it's paradise.
It was back then. There was a lot of college students at UCSD, where I went to college, actually, that would come down there. So, yes, it was. But, it was idyllic childhood. I mean, it was fantasy.
Oh.
It was really nice. But a lot of my friends' dads had Porsches. And I remember I graduated from La Jolla High in 76. And, well, if you remember, the first 911 turbos came out in the early 70s. That was 74, I think, 75, 76, somewhere in there. And I remember some of my friends' dads having those cars, thinking, someday I'm going to have a turbo. Because they were like the Widowmakers, they called them, because they were the fastest car. They were supercars of the time. Now a Honda Civic could probably
the clutches were nasty back then, and they were so tail happy you couldn't control them.
Oh, yeah. Many back ends got swapped and backed into guardrails because that turbo lag on those first gens. Well, then a few years they didn't import turbos. They didn't make them. And then in the 80s, they started importing them again up until I think it was 80, 89, 88, maybe 88. Well, when I first got married, it was in 84. And, I had a new wife. We didn't have our baby till later, but we had a new house. So, you're scraping pennies and wishing you could afford something nice. And at that time, I was driving an older Scirocco that I'd bought new in 79. And I used to drive by Hohen Porsche in Carlsbad, California, and I'd stop in every Friday on my way home, and I'd look at the cars. And I remember going in and seeing the first turbos sitting in there. In fact, I remember one they special ordered for a guy in mint green. Crazy color. And apparently the guy saw it and went, well, now that color is a coveted color, but it was kind of funky back then. And I dreamt of that car all the time, of a turbo in the 80s that was a wild color. So there's the story of, that was always in my mind. I want a turbo, I want a turbo, I want a turbo. So here was a chance to get that turbo to that's what we all do, right? I mean, we relive our youth through cars. And so this car showed up, and again, I've had it for 11 years, and no, it's not for sale, although that kid that called me that said, I want to buy that car, and I go, well, everything's for sale for the right price, but you're not going to like all the zeros I'm going to attach to this thing. But it's just fun. It's a great car to drive. It's fast, but it's not. I mean, I have a E46 M3 that'll smoke this turbo. Way faster car.
And like you said a little bit ago, for back in the day, they were supercars, but nowadays Hondas can beat them, which is, you know what I mean? Hondas have, it's kind of the state we live in.
Well, it's again, this car's 33 years old. So when you think about that, that's an old car, but it does everything right. It's got air conditioning. I mean, it has all the factory options. I didn't know this, but the sunroof was actually an option in the turbo. It didn't come standard with a sunroof.
Oh, interesting. We just interviewed somebody, I think they're out of Miami, or I forget where, but they've got a cabriolet that has a factory hardtop on it. And I had never seen one before. And the factory hardtop even has, and what made me think of it is the washer wiper in the back windscreen.
Yeah, that's a very rare option.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Here's the thing about Porsches is over the years, a lot of people, you'll take a car to an event and they'll say, oh, that wasn't factory. Up until 91, when Porsche almost completely got annihilated. I mean, they were in the dumper. They were going to go out of business. And luckily, the guy running it then invited a Japanese automaking expert in to say, what are we doing wrong? And one of the first things he did was he looked around the factory and he said, what are all these boxes of parts everywhere? I said, well, those are the headlights and there's the steering wheels. And he goes, well, no, that's not how you make a car. You have parts that come in the day they go on the car. You don't have stuff sitting around. And Porsche did that for decades. In fact, you can look at old 356s that mid-year 58, 59, or 57, 58, they went from beehives to the teardrop taillights. And some people will go, well, those are the wrong taillights for a 57 or a 58. No, because they had leftovers from the year before, so they just used them up.
They were sitting in the box. They're sitting in the box. They're still in the corner. We're going to put them on. What the hell?
Yeah. So Porsche did that for years and years, and then they came into the enlightened ages in the 90s. But I had a 91 Carrera 2 that was a wonderful car. It was my daily drive. I love that car. It was just so nice. And the guy I bought it from it had two mufflers, had taken one of the mufflers off. And I kid you not, that thing when it was idling sounded like a Chevy small block V8. People are going to go, Mark's been drinking, some of his Adobe Road Shift wine I've got in the corner over here. Got to pitch one of my new sponsors here. It just had this sound that I'd go to car shows, Porsches, and they're like, what kind of motor do you have in that thing? Like, it's all stock, except we took one of the mufflers off. It just had this wonderful burble kind of thing to it when it was, But that's what makes Porsches so sweet. I've always loved them. So that,
one of the things, yeah. A few years ago at the, I do some of the Good Guys events. La Jolla, right up the road from you in Del Mar.
Del Mar?
At the Del Mar Fairgrounds, Friday and Saturday, we got the big stuff done, and Sunday is Supercars or All-American Sunday. And all of a sudden, this guy drives up in a C4S. It's like, hey, it's All-American Sunday, dude. Well,
wrong show, dude.
That's why I'm here. Well, but yours is an All-American. He's like, come over here. Takes me around the back. It's got an LS3.
I've seen people do that.
With an LS3, the transfer case is hooked up, and the damn thing, and I hate to put it in this category, but Scott Frazier drives a CSX 3170, the only Cobra still owned by its original owner. And the Cobra doesn't look fast. It doesn't accelerate like that. It doesn't brake like that. It just moves. And that little C4S boogied like I have never seen. It was non-dramatic, and it just moved around the track with no drama and put down some wicked fast lap times.
Well, my dentist here I live in Gig Harbor, Washington, which is an hour south of Seattle. My dentist, I went to his office one day, and he's a car guy, and there's an E30 M3 88 sitting there. And I'm going, oh, that's kind of nice. The old first little flared fenders they had on those cars. And I look down and I see the exhaust and I go, something looks odd there. So I go inside and, the dentist always starts talking to you when you have your, mouth open. And so I pull his hand away and I said, okay, what's going on with the car out there? He goes, oh, that's my little project car. I said, little project car? Yeah, it has an LS in it. It had a Chevy Corvette engine in the thing. He even had to modify where the transmission was so it came out of the same place on the floor. Oh my gosh, that thing kicked butt. But it looked completely stock from the outside. It was a gunmetal gray, beautiful color. Inside looked completely stock, but the exhaust was not quite normal. You got to hand it to guys that have some fun like that, right? It's like people that put a V8 into a little MGB or something like that.
The guy who drives the Cobra was discovered by the owner of the Cobra, and he was driving a Miata at an autocross. And the owner goes over to Ace, hey man, would you like to drive one of my cars? And now Scott, who was driving the Miata, he just posted on Instagram last week he's dropping an LS3 into a Miata, and it's like it's going to look completely it's going to be a monster Miata.
Well, have you ever seen Peter Brock's Dotzilla that he built?
Yes.
I know
the
Greene 510 that had the giant motor in it. Yeah.
A friend of mine, David Carroll, built, and David's up, I don't know, San Jose, but he's up close to Pleasanton. He's got a blue 510, the 4 velocity stacks coming out of the hood, and it's got an 800 and something horsepower LS3 in it. And let me see if I can find it. It's an easy find. But good times at the Pleasanton Good Guys with the little 510.
Oh, yeah. Well, the 510 was one of those great cars that if you remember Peter Brock when he had BRE Racing, he still has the company, but he had a racing team out of Japan, and they raced those 510s along with the Datsun 240Zs. There we go. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
And
That thing's wicked.
wicked, and he told me about it a few years ago. Yeah, I'm building this little Datsun 510. It's like, yeah, no offense, but it's not really my bag. It's not really my thing. And then he shows up at the next event. I'm like, what the heck is this thing? Oh, Jeff, I thought you said this wasn't your thing. It's like, dude, this is what you're talking. Full cage, Tremec T56. I mean, it's a full-on 10/10 race car, and he beats on it. So it's like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. You got to hand it to people that have some fun like that. It kind of goes back to the rat rod concept of those kinds of cars. And of course, the hot rods in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. And, I mean, you drive a super cool car. And I love it when people have some fun. And even when you take it into the Porsche realm, there's people now building tribute cars, well, like Rob Dickinson with Singer. I mean, and then there's another guy now making in England one called a Sooner, which is very similar to a Singer type build. It's about half the price.
Mark, now you brought it up. I love this. The Singer, you brought up the S word, Singers. And the Singer Porsches or the Singer 911s are beautiful works of art, I think. But I've heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, so please help either educate me or dispel the rumor, that the owner of Singer doesn't call them 911s or doesn't call them Porsches. You have to call them Singers.
Well, you can't, and it's because of licensing. Porsche is all the manufacturers are very strict, so they don't allow him. So it's you know what it's called? It's a 911 reimagined. Okay. That's the official title, but that's his brand. It's like a good example would be Alloy Roof. You familiar with Roof Porsches?
Yeah, the Yellowbird.
The Yellowbird. Well, when Roof started doing that, and I've been to his factory twice in Pfaffenhusen, I got to drive a Yellowbird. He had his test driver take me for a ride in the Yellowbird. I swear, when I got out of the car, I almost collapsed because my knees were.
You were in the Yellowbird.
Well, there's several of them. They built a couple of them.
Yeah. But I meant the Genesis.
In 1996, I was in Germany with my old business partner. We picked up a Carrera 4S at the factory in Germany, a brand new one, and we spent 2.5 weeks driving around Europe visiting our vendors, companies we imported product from. It was a working trip, right? That's the kind of working trips we had. Well, first thing we did is we headed south and went to visit Alloy Roof. And so he comes out, we meet him, we have lunch with him, really nice guy. He's been a guest on my Cars Yeah podcast. In fact, he still sends me a Christmas card every year. It's incredible. Wow. And I ran into him at the Jet Party last summer in August at the Car Week, Pebble Beach Car Week. Well, at any rate, he goes, hey, so he's showing us around his facility, and he tells us a story that he said when he started building Porsches, he wanted to brand them. And Porsche was like, go away. We don't want to have anything to do with you. But then they started to realize, okay, this guy's doing like top-notch work. So they started to, he got his own brand. They allowed him to take brand new cars and then rebuild them with his brand roof on them. So they gave him permission basically to do that. Otherwise, most, now you could do it with an old car and Porsche can't do much against you unless you're selling it as a Porsche. So back to Rob Dickinson, that's how he's getting around that problem. I think now Porsche is probably going, okay, now this guy knows what he's doing.
So that's my fault then. I didn't know it was a legal thing, and he was I thought it was his ego saying, you can't call this a Porsche. It's a Singer. Well, you started with a Porsche, so it's got it. So, okay, thank you.
No,
it's ego, and I apologize. Thank you for
It's a licensing thing. Back when I worked at Griot's, we used to use cars as props all the time in photo shoots for our car care products, things like that. And we would get what I call nasty grams. BMW would say, you have a BMW wheel with our logo in it behind your wheel washing product. Can't do that. Implies endorsement. Stop it or we will sue you. So we started to learn, they're very picky. Well, and rightfully so. They've spent decades building a brand. Now, what if we were like selling crappy wheel cleaner and a buyer would go, oh, well, look, BMW must endorse it. There's their logo right there. So I get that. I'm protective of my brand, and everybody should be protective of their brand because it takes a huge amount of time and money to build it. But yeah, they're very protective. But the weird thing was, on those catalogs that we did every year at Griot's, I would always put a vintage car. They didn't care if there was a vintage Ferrari, Porsche, BMW, whatever, on the front, as long as it was old. But if it was a new car, better not do it. The attorneys will give you a call and say verboten. So yeah, it's it's just legal facts and so forth. It's like when I started my podcast, try to find a URL, car word something that nobody else has taken that you can then take. And the only thing I found close to Cars Yeah was I think it was effing Cars Yeah or something like that.
I couldn't see you taking that one.
No, probably not me. Yeah, I'm not a Gary V cusser. We were talking about Gary V earlier today. So, people are protective, and they should be, because you build a brand, and if somebody kind of comes in and tries to steal it, and you see that all the time coming out of China with them stealing designer stuff and slapping a Louis Vuitton logo on a bag that looks like Louis Vuitton, but it's not. So they protect those.
Mike's buddy, he's a friend I know, Ed, not as well as Mike does, but Mike's buddy, Ed Beard, he posts on Facebook once a week. People steal his artwork and rip him off, and these Facebook vendors, and then the people are like, well, it's like, dude, you're ripping off his stuff. That's his livelihood. That ain't cool, man.
No, it's not. I have a good friend. Your listeners, your viewers here might know him. Nick Huntsiker. Nicholas Huntsiker is an automotive artist. He does beautiful paintings. He does cool shirts, hats, shoes, all sorts of really cool stuff. He's been a guest. He was a guest on my TV show and has been a guest on my podcast. People steal his art all the time and resell them on eBay and stuff, and you're chasing it all the time. But nowadays, these companies have algorithms where they can go in and they can find images online, and then they can stick their attorneys on them. And they do, and they rightfully should, because, we all work hard to build who we are and our brand and so forth. Imagine, going back to your history, Jeff, imagine somebody coming out with a new online show called The Price is Right. You don't think somebody would come after them for that?
Man. When I worked on the show, and I was at lunch with some friends, and a friend of a friend is there and says, I know The Price is Right is rigged. That big wheel is rigged. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, have you seen the movie Quiz Show? Have you ever heard of lawyers? In this day and age, there's lawyers. There's nothing rigged, you idiot. So it's like,
remember the movie Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? About the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
Where it was rigged, and they didn't want the guy. They couldn't figure out, how's this guy cheating, and he wasn't cheating. It was a fascinating story. But and I think I told you, my mom, when I was a kid, was on Price is Right.
Yeah, 100%.
So, she won a ping pong table and I think like a year's worth of Eskimo pies or something, which I thought was pretty cool.
Heck yeah, that's a win.
Our freezer was full of Eskimo pies when I was in junior high.
No car.
Well, see, and she was on the show back then. I mean, that's vintage, classic Barker. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah. It's one of those things we all grew up as kids. But but the car thing is interesting. And Rob Dickinson, the cars he's building, I find the whole thing fascinating. And he was a rock star. I don't know if you know this, but he played in a rock band in England way, way back. So he came from Google it. I knew you were going to ask me. Okay, let me see if I can find it, because I can never remember the name. I know
Bruce Dickinson is Iron Maiden.
Yeah, no.
Like in I got to have more cowbell. Yes, I'm that Bruce Dickinson, the record producer. Except when I put my pants on one leg at a time. Except when my pants are on, I make gold records, baby.
Okay, let's hear Rob Dickinson, born in 1965, British musician, Catherine Wheel.
Huh.
So, yeah, their music is actually pretty cool. Some of it I had not heard of him, but you go back and, you can find all things on Google, right? So you can find his music and so forth. But, yeah, for a guy that came from rock star to the U.S. and then decided to build himself a cool car that everybody wanted to buy, it's a pretty cool story. And now, he's building $750,000 cars with a 3-year backlog.
Yeah, and thank you for explaining that to me, why they're singers and not Porsches, because I was throwing him under the bus, and that was my fault. So I appreciate you at least setting me straight.
This is why we're here, right? To set the world straight. We're the straight setters on this show here, thanks to Mike, and Jeff here. But he's a good guy. I really had some fun with him on my show. In fact, I had so much fun talking to him, I made him into 2 shows. Made them into two shows, created two shows out of our talk. Yeah. And I always ask you guys, I ask you guys this question. I ask all my guests, if I could buy you any cool collector car, what it would be. And I had Tommy Kendall interview me on my 1000th show. And I knew he was going to ask me that question. And I'm like, oh, now I know the pressure I put everybody under, I've been mean for 1,000 shows. But the car I picked was a Singer, which is completely out of my normal even my friends went, what? Because everyone knows I like authenticity. They knew it was going to be a Porsche, but I like authenticity. I love the old 550 Spider. I had a Beck Spider for a while. But here's why I picked that car, because it's your ability to have built a old Porsche, but exactly the way you want it, with a lot of modern stuff in a kick-ass 4-liter motor. Mm-hmm. Better brakes, better motor. Everything could be done the way you want it. Down to the knobs, the leather on the knobs, whatever you want. I've never driven one at speed. I got to drive one once, just kind of in the Carmel, but I didn't want to, mess it up or anything. I picked that car. Yeah, so every once in a while I blow a buck on a lottery ticket, and you know what I write on the back of it? Singer.
Nice. Nice. You follow, there's on Instagram, Ferrari collector David Lee. And
David is a really interesting
He's a
guy.
jeweler out here, and I followed him since almost the beginning, and now he's at I don't know how many million. But he built this Ferrari Dino, and it's a beautiful little jewel of a Dino, but it's got all modern F40 stuff internal underneath it, and it is a monster. So it's kind of, like you said, the best of both worlds, and I don't know anybody else that's done that to a Ferrari, but I love that kind of stuff, like the Resto mods or the Pro Touring cars with the Corvettes and Camaros nowadays, but they're going European now.
Yeah, that car is just killer, and he's an interesting guy. He kind of came out of, he owns a bunch of Rolex dealerships all over the place.
Yep.
And that's how he makes his money. Andy Cohen, the late Andy Cohen, and really sadly we lost Andy last year. He was a friend of mine. I'd known him forever. He started Beverly Hills Motoring Accessories, the catalog back in the 70s.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember buying from his catalog when I was in high school. And so he started that business and then sold it, and then the guy that bought it gave it to his son destroyed it, and then Andy ended up buying it back. And Andy and I reconnected years later when I was at Griot's Garage, because he was in that business, and we used to chat all the time. And he invited me to come up and spend 3 days. He has a house that perches up on the hill above Malibu with this incredible view. And so Andy is the guy who worked on getting that car built for David Lee.
Oh, okay.
That car was on display at the Monterey, or no, it was at the Quail 3 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. It's like I got to see it up close and personal. Yeah, I love Dinos, but I would do that to a Dino. There's some eyeballs rolling right now.
Yeah, so you said the D word. Is a Dino a Ferrari?
If you ask that question to
I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah, it's a Ferrari. It's built in the Ferrari factory. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, thanks.
Of course it is. But here's a little thing that most people maybe don't know. The word Ferrari never appeared on that car.
That's why I'm asking, because some purists don't consider it a Ferrari because it doesn't say Ferrari anywhere. But they are so, it's like the third-gen Corvette. It's a Coke bottle. It is such a sexy, beautiful, and the open headlights. Oh, I love it.
When I was a kid, I started a detailing business. And I would ride my bicycle around La Jolla. This is 14 years old, and I put my business card on the windshields of the best cars that I would pick out. And I found this purple Dino. Purple, metallic. It was a factory color, too. Yeah.
No!
Yes. Go and look at the Dino colors. They had like 30 colors for those cars or something. Metallic purple with Baroni wire wheels. It was a little gaudy, but apparently the car was originally built for Cher, and then the guy I detailed it for, he became a client of mine, Sam Salemi. He bought the car, and so I would ride my bike down to his house in South Mission Beach, and no, I think he was in Bird Rock. I'm thinking of another guy, and he would let me drive it back to my house and detail it. And I would always take the long way back. I'd go up by Mount Soledad and down Hillside Drive in La Jolla and the back around by Windansea Beach where all my buddies were surfing and take it home and detail it. And then he finally got sick of that color and he sent it to LA for a year for a full restoration. There we go. Yeah, that's David Lee's. Oh, wait, no, that's a purple one.
That's the purple.
Okay.
I have never seen a purple Dino. And you said gaudy. Yeah. This one doesn't have the Barani wires, but I love it. I have a purple sparkly steering wheel in I love purple. That is
it's a cool,
go ahead.
Cool car. No, it's cool. In fact, I saw years ago a picture of Sharon and her son. No, well, it was her daughter. Now it's her son. I can't remember what he is. I think he became Chaz or something. But anyway, that's another story. Something like that. But she was getting out of a car. It was a black and white picture, and I think it was yellow. So apparently Sonny and Cher had a couple of those cars. But to me, the Dino, you think about the history of the Dino. Enzo Ferrari built that car and named it after his son, who he lost very early. His son had a physical problem, health problem, and he died. Yep. And so that car was named after his son, Dino. And to me, it's a Ferrari. It may not have a Ferrari name on it, but Ferrari's kind of funny because, again, my old business partner bought a 599 and special ordered it, brought it in, and I'm looking up close and personal at that car. It got into our shop, and I think I counted something like 30-something places on the car that there was either a Cavallino, the horse, or the word Ferrari. It's like, okay, I know I have a Ferrari. Why do you have to put it like everywhere? It's everywhere. I mean, you open the engine, it's 10 places in the engine bay. It's inside the car. It's a little bit too much, I think.
So the question is, do you think he made that car just in a tribute to him and just kept all the Ferrari off? I mean, there must be a reason.
It was because of the motor, I believe. Now, the Ferrari aficionados out there might poo-poo me on this a little bit, but if I remember right, that car had a motor that was mid-engine, mounted sideways, and it was transverse. There's the word I was trying to find.
The six-cylinder as well.
Yeah, and that's why I think that he went, okay, they were doing V12s back then and so forth. So this was like the baby Ferrari, but, Enzo had a big ego, right? So maybe he felt like, we'll call this something else, and it won't tarnish the other guys. And you think about Porsche when they first came out with the 914. A lot of people were like, so you remember the first 914s had Volkswagen on the back. Yeah. It actually said Volkswagen with a VW. And I think it was Porsche's way of going, we don't want to offend the 911 guys, but we need to kind of open up our world a little bit and diversify. And, of course, the 914s have finally come on their own now. I had one for a while, a 2-liter. It was a really fun car.
Well, some of those 914 6s are beasts.
Oh, well, those are really cool. Yeah.
Oh.
I think like 1970, I think, was the only year they made those. So They're very rare. Not too many were made, and really, really killer. In fact, there's a guy that I used to race with at the Sovereign races, the vintage racing, who had a lot of money, and he took a 914 and put the GT flares. He actually put a 911 dash in the car. He had the car completely gutted and rebuilt. Yeah, had a really beefed up 911 motor in the back, and that car was so beautiful. Yeah, I always loved the stance of that thing. In fact, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a guy named Bruce Levin.
No.
Bruce Levin ran a Porsche racing team back when they were running the 934s, 935s, and the first 962s, Bayside Racing.
Okay.
Bruce lived in the Northwest. He made all his money off the trash industry, Bayside Disposal. He made a fortune, and then he sold the company, and I was friends with him, so I can say this. We lost him about 3.5 years ago to cancer. And he said to me, he goes, I thought I was the smartest man in the world. I built up this business selling trash. I thought I could do anything. So I bought a Porsche dealership. I wasn't that smart when it came to selling cars. So he didn't do so well there. Plus, he went racing. Well, we all know what happens when you go racing. You spend an awful lot of money.
You know how to make a little bit of money in racing?
Yeah. Start with
a whole lot. Yeah, okay.
That's Bruce. Bruce was a character, but this guy, and he was a kick-ass driver. He raced. He had a Daytona watch. His team won Le Mans. I mean, he was a kick-ass guy. Oh yeah. Go look, Google Bayside Disposal, Bruce Levin, Leven. Anyway, the reason I mentioned Bruce, you guys would love him because he was a hot rod guy. And if you go and probably Google Bruce Levin's hot rods, he would commission some of the coolest custom hot rods you've ever seen. I mean, he would spend $500,000 on having a hot rod built. Louis Shevchik built most of his cars. He had some other guys that built cars for him. He won the coveted, what's the really big coveted hot rod?
Riddler?
Riddler. Won a Riddler. I mean, this guy, but he had really good taste and he had the money to back it up. So he bought a 914 and built it into this 914-6. He chopped the top. Yeah, because if you look at a 914, the top's a little bit too big.
Yeah.
Brought it down probably 3 inches. And then GT flares, I think he put a 964 turbo in there or something. I mean, it was black. It's just, yeah. Bruce had exquisite taste. He was a really nice guy. And
what's his last name?
Levin, L-E-V-E-N. Yeah, just look up Bayside Disposal. And he ran, in fact, his collection included one of the first 962 factory race cars and the last 962 ever built. When he made his first bit of money, he bought a black first-gen turbo. Yeah, you just found him, didn't you? I can see the look on your face.
Just his reactions.
That is sick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's so elegantly done.
Yeah, that thing is sick.
The car was at it was for sale for a while at Bruce Canepa's shop.
Okay.
And then but sadly we lost Bruce and his car collection got all split up and everything. But he was also a big game hunter. He had jets and yachts and just incredible guy.
Sounds like Otis Chandler. He had the Museum of Transportation and Wildlife in Oxnard.
Yeah, in fact, Bruce had one of the largest private collections of Winchester rifles in the world.
Oh, wow.
And he donated all of them to the Winchester Rifle Museum in Cody, I think, something like that.
Very cool.
Yeah, he had a room in his house that was down below, and built into the wall was a full-size, what do you call them when you have a picture of or you have a model of a car inside of a setting? There's a word for that. What am I looking for?
Diorama?
Diorama. He had a full-size diorama of an actual sprint car.
First cylinder.
In his wall. Yeah, you're doing good on words today. I'm glad we brought you to the show, Jeff. Somebody smarter than me. But he built it. So I said, Bruce, how did you get this car down here? And he said, well, we put it in a crate. And when they poured the foundation before they built the house, they lowered the crate into the room, and we built a house around it.
Oh, wow, that's badass.
The whole guy's approach to life was badass. I mean, yeah. And then you remember that massive crash that took place, I think it was at Road America maybe, where all the vintage big block cars were racing, and there was a crash right at the start.
Yeah.
And he was in that race and crashed in that race. He had a beautiful Corvette Stingray convertible, and his car, he was okay. Really good, well-built roll cage by our friends Louis Shevchik at J&L Fabricating. But Bruce was an interesting guy. But going back to the Porsche stories, I just like it, like RSR projects that people are building. The R Group. We just lost one of the founders, Chris, who was one of the founders of the R Group. Those guys that take cars and just it's a tradition that goes back to hot rodding, right? In the 40s and even the 30s of taking something and making it your own. And the sacrilege of some of these cars that, again, it takes some big cojones to take a Dino and do it, what Lee did to it. But they did it right. And if you ever get your chance to put your eyes on that car, it's exquisite.
I'd love to. Yeah, I would love to. Another Bruce is a Bruce Meyer out of Beverly Hills, and he's got Bruce. The 935K. And you totally brought me back. You said Bruce, and then you said the racetrack. They did a prank on him a few years back. They had it up at there's a big Porsche reunion or whatever at Laguna Seca, and apparently that
was Rensport.
Yes. So I don't know. Did you see this? They had the 930, his 935. It's like the last privateer car that won Le Mans outright, and had the cops come in and said, "Oh yeah, this isn't your car. It's whatever happened." And pulled a big prank on Bruce, but kind of good stuff over there.
Yeah, Bruce Meyer, I always call him the quintessential car guy because he's been around forever. He's got one of the best collections. You can see a lot of them on display. They're on rotating, almost permanent display at the Peterson Museum.
Yep.
And Bruce,
and boy, he is the nicest guy. Yeah. I mean, every time I see him out and like it's see him of Bruce, he's like, "Oh, hey, doesn't remember my name." Oh, but he's a rock star. But have you been to his place, to his private garage?
I have not been to his private garage, but I'm gonna.
I know. Holy dude, it is. I got it. Miss Daytona the boat. He's got the Briggs Cunningham Corvette. He's got the first Cobra ever, or the first big block Cobra, the black one.
Oh, the black one, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a Clark Gable car. He's got the Bizzarini that won Le Mans. He's got the Keith Black or the Keith Green Prudhomme Dragster, the SoCal Speedster. Oh dear Lord, it is. Sorry, I get carried away.
Yeah, it's no, really he's one of those places you visit that, and he knows the cars so well. He's a big part of the Peterson.
And he drives them. He tried the Bizzarini that won Le Mans. He was telling the story. They were at a stoplight. It was leaking gas, and it caught on fire. They got it. There was a car behind them that had a fire extinguisher and put it out. Otherwise, it's $1 million car that almost went up in flames. Yeah, but we're out there driving it, Jeff. It's like, dude, he drives them. I love it.
Well, that 930. I'm trying to remember. Is the Porsche a 934 or 935? I don't remember, but it's
the white one, 935 slant nose.
Full on race car. Andy Cohen used to put on a Cars and Coffee in Malibu, and it was a little shopping center there. It got so big they had to stop doing it because it got out of control. But one morning, Bruce drove that 935 up the Coast Highway to that event. Yeah, full on race car. He's also got a TR, Ferrari TR, 250 TR Testarossa. I mean,
the winningest Ferrari in history, the silver one. Yeah, the winningest Ferrari in all of Ferraris ever. And he drives that. He drives them all.
I know.
Sorry.
Amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing.
Jeff's getting a little excited. Jeff's getting a little hot.
Dude, it's so badass. It's like, I love this shit. And it's like he's Yeah, and I feel
like I have a boring life at this point. I mean, listen to you guys. I'm like, wow.
You know what? No, well, no. You know, it's the great thing about people like Bruce and Bruce Levin. Bruce Canepa is another one. There's so many great people out there that actually share their cars because there's collections out there that people never bring out. They don't share them. They're just kind of investments. They tuck them away. They don't bring them out to anybody. I really admire people that bring cars out. You know, there's a guy up here in the Northwest, John Shirley, who is going to be in our Buy, Sell, Hold podcast in 2 weeks. And John is a big-time collector. He used to be the president of Microsoft back in the days when Microsoft was just growing. So he's got a nice collection of cars. He's got a GTO. It's actually the only white GTO, the number 10 car. If you Google white GTO number 10, you'll see his car everywhere. There we go. Yeah, that's Bruce's TR. Yeah,
the silver Testarossa.
Yeah,
there's the Cobra number 1.
Yeah. That's
nice.
Yeah, that's Bruce Myers. But John Shirley takes his cars out. He drives them. What is that? Oh, the boat. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's Miss Daytona, the boat.
I know.
There's the Keith Black dragster.
Oh, the dragster. Yeah.
There's the 935K.
There we go. Ooh. Yeah, that car is killer. Yeah.
And as the legend goes, the owners of it, there's a hidden compartment in the transmission tunnel that allegedly held a bottle of nitrous. I'm not making this up. There was a documentary done on it. That's how as the legend goes. Oh yeah, there's the Bizzarini with the hood up. Look at that cross.
They're doing a little cheating back then whenever they could get away with it, right? And you even think about the days of those 935s. Remember, some of those race teams were being run by drug dealers.
Those are the guys.
Yeah.
In that Porsche, those are the guys. But see, that's the tag.
DSX 2001.
The first big block Cobra ever.
Yeah.
Really sorry.
I know. No, but the great thing is these guys share these things. And like I said, there's a whole wing in the Peterson Museum that's Bruce Meyer wing, all his cars. Which one is that? Is that you there?
That's me and Peter Brock. He was there with us, and we kept on. He just introduced himself as Peter. Peter. And then I looked at a book on the Corvette table, and it's like, wait, you're Mr. Brock, and there's Bruce.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
But it was like, dude, I met Peter, and then, Peter Brock, he's... Dude.
Well, we talked. We haven't talked about the COVID world here, but I did something last weekend I've never done before. I got invited to host my first virtual wine tasting, and it was really fun.
Virtual wine taste.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I invited all my followers to join. I have a new sponsor on my podcast, Adobe Road Winery, and it's owned by Kevin Buckler, who's been racing endurance race cars for 27 years. He's won Daytona 24-hour 8 times. He won Lemay as a private team outright once.
Wow.
I mean, this guy, oh yeah, killer guy. So as if he wasn't busy enough racing, he still runs the TRG, the racers group, TRG Racing. They're racing Caymans this year. I think last year, year before, they raced Aston Martins. He started a winery called Adobe Road Winery. It's up in Petaluma, California. And you may say, what does this have to do with cars? Well, he created a series called the Racing Series. Okay, I brought some wine for you guys today, okay?
Nice.
Yeah.
I did get the invites. Just saying.
So you asked me about how do you do a virtual wine tasting. You know, out of this terrible pandemic that's affected so many people, you're getting some amazing creativity going on here. People that are coming up with new ways to do things. We as human beings are super innovative. I mean, we wouldn't have lasted this long on this planet without being innovative, right? I mean, you think of all the things we fought off. It's amazing. So he decided, you know what? I kept the state of California closed my wine tasting room. I have this new series of wines that are really cool, and I'm going to show them to you guys because I'm not much of a. There we go. Look at that. Yeah, you got a picture of them. So he created a series of 4 wines called the Racing Series. The first one is what we call. Let me see if I can do this right. Is Redline. I'm going to show this to you guys. These are 3-dimensional labels.
Yeah. Turn it to the side. Oh, that's nuts.
Is it going into the red line?
Yeah.
Am I turning it the right way? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interactive tack. Okay?
Oh,
very cool.
It doesn't end there. The next one
Doesn't end.
is called Shift.
But wait, there's more. That is cool.
This is actual metal with
Looks
real
like a
carbon
Ferrari
fiber.
shifter plate.
It's Ferrari, exactly right. And check out the
There you go,
top.
Jeff.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Okay? There's
Oh,
more.
man.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Exclusive
The
on
24
Car Show
because-
Nationals.
Yeah, because
It's
he won the Lemay. Here is the 24. So if you have a cheap Timex, you could pop this off, and it looks like you're wearing a Daytona.
That would be the only way I would want to wear a Daytona is to win one.
Well, here's the deal. Up until I think last year, or the year before, if you won, you got a gold. They're not doing that anymore. No more gold. I guess they're chintzing out now. It's
I
going to
wouldn't
be
want to gold. I'd want stainless. I don't
It's
want
going to be
gold.
stainless. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stainless is hard.
Platinum.
There you
And
go,
the
Mike.
yeah, platinum. Yeah. Well, we got somebody with taste in the house, right, Jeff?
Stainless
and
with
the
a
last
Newman dial.
The last one is
Nice.
Apex. This is
I like
metal,
that.
and listen to this.
These are very
It's the
clean.
rumble strips. It's the rumble strips on turn 4 Laguna Seca.
Oh,
Very cool.
gosh.
So, how do you do a virtual tasting? So what we did was we invited people. They had to buy 2 bottles of wine. We're trying to sell some wine here, right? And then they got invited into a Zoom on Saturday night. I invited Lynn St. James, who's a past guest of mine, a friend of mine. Last weekend would have been the Indy 500. Lynn raced the Indy 500
wow.
7 times. So I invited her to talk about her experiences there. She was Rookie of the Year the first time she ran there. And I invited Peter Brock and his wife, Gail. So Peter was there. So we had him on the show. And then we also invited 2 of TRG's drivers, Spencer Pompelli and Derek DeBoer. Joe Gibbs popped in. We had all these different people that came in to the show. And how you do it is basically you get people to buy the wine. They get you the access to the Zoom meeting. We had 84 people there, and I hosted it. So we just go through, and we had his winemaker talk about the blends. We talked about racing. We talked with Peter Brock about his AeroVault trailer, Lynn St. James about her racing. And so we spent literally 90-plus minutes with everybody. We had questions and answers from people. We had people calling in from all over the world. It was really fun. I mean, it was just like, so that's how you do a virtual wine tasting.
It's
Kinda
only
cool.
90 minutes? You didn't do the 3-hour podcast like me and Jeff?
No, I think 90 was about right. I think it kept people's attention, and it's kind of fun
Right.
because I mean, I even had my mom. I gave her the password so she could pop in. So
Oh,
she was
geez.
there. My kids were there. My wife was in the other room. She popped in, and it was just really fun. But again, it's the innovativeness of car people.
Right.
And thinking on your feet, and you think about racing, you think about building hot rods, you think about all this stuff. There's always a way to do something kind of different, and so there you go. And that was hopefully they invite me back. It was really fun. But yeah, if you guys love wine, the wine is actually really, really good. It's I'm not a big wine aficionado. I usually buy wine because the labels are cool, and if they have a car, I always buy them. So I'm a sucker for these, and you can buy them in a full set or you can buy them individually. But yeah, Adobe Road Winery, and having Peter there was cool. Gail talking about their AeroVault and how they came up with the whole concept of that business back in 2008. And then Lynn was great. I mean, she talked about racing at the Indy 500 and what it meant to her. And this was the first time in decades she hasn't been at Indy that weekend because of what's going on. So, and apparently they're going to still try to have that race in either August or September.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
We might still get an Indy 500. So, yeah, so there you go.
Watch it. I might be able to watch it. I'm usually working on that weekend, and I miss it every year.
Yeah. Well, have you guys ever got to go to the actual race?
I've never been to the race, but I went to Carburation Day. The first year they went turbo, or the first year they went when Tony George wrecked it all, took it over and it destroyed it all. We were out there when Scott Brayton went into the wall. We were out there at the 240 mile an hour lap, but it was because Tony George ruined it. I still have it somewhere. My little pin, my pit pin, is it's one of the first 500 pit pins, and the person we were with was like, "That doesn't happen. You need to save that." So I still have it somewhere, but I still can't believe it took us the place is huge. Sorry, Mike.
So
how about you, Mike?
Were there? You were there when Scott Brayton was killed?
Yeah.
Okay. I met Scott Brayton.
Holy shit.
And a month before that, I wished him good luck. So I don't wish people good luck anymore after that. But actually, he worked. So I worked for Menards. That's my job outside of my website. And Menards had an Indy race team. So
they were huge.
He came and spoke in front of us like a speaker, just talking about racing and stuff. And people asked him, ever worry about something happening? And it's just, I heard the news. I was working and I heard the news, and I'm like, I hope it's not Scott Brayton. And it was. And I was like, unbelievable, And then a couple years later, or maybe a year later, I got to go out to the not the time trials, but Carburation Day, like you said.
Yep.
I flew out there, got to meet our race team, and that's when Tony Stewart was racing for Menards. But that ended up not happening.
You think about, with Roger Penske now owning that whole deal, it's gonna be kick butt. And I guess So you have a guy like that running the show, you're going to see some dramatic improvements in every way. I mean, nobody beats Penske when it comes to putting things together.
Well, when I heard Menards won the Indy 500, I messaged. So Larry Menard was Angie Menard's dad, and Larry and his brother John. John is the one who owns Menards, and he's one who does this, has the team and all that. I heard they won, and I messaged her and I said, "We just won Indy 500. I cannot believe it," because they've been chasing that for so many years.
Yeah.
And she was working too, and she's like, "I didn't get to see it." I'm like, I watched like the last minute, and I was, going crazy at work, going, "Yes," because just to see, how much they've put into it, trying to see him win, and that, some of the luck we've had. I mean, they started out with Buick Grand National engines back in the day, and we were the only ones that were running them at that time, so there's no one else.
Well, I've only been able to go once, and it was in 2007, and I got invited, and so we got invited one of the teams, and we got to go behind the scenes and be in the pits and so forth. We spent the whole week there, and took my son, and it was really cool because we could get into all the pits, and we met all the drivers, and went down and kissed the bricks and, did all that stuff.
Nice.
And then they blamed us because it got rained out about halfway through the race, and they had to stop the race. And everybody was looking at us going, you guys from the Pacific Northwest, you brought the curse here with all the rain. I'm like, sorry, but it was fun. We got to sit in one of the private little booth things, and they had food catered, and it was just that everyone that likes racing has to do that event at least once. I had been there before for the first F1 race when they ran the first Formula One races there.
Oh, seriously?
Oh yeah.
Dude, with Schumacher and Massa. Oh man, and to me that was a travesty when they robbed Massa. That was horrible. But
that
F1 in Indy and the red cars. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something interesting about that trip. We were importing stuff for Ferrari at the time when I was at Griot's, so Ferrari invited us. So we had passes to get into everything. So I got to eat lunch at the same table with Michael Schumacher. I was like, come on! Yeah, you're sitting there like, what do you ask Michael Schumacher? I mean, how's your lunch, dude? Yeah, it was the best thing, and I'll never remember. We got there the day before, and they were doing testing, and if you stand on the straightaway there, and they ran the cars the other direction. Remember for the F1 race, and we walked in, and we were in the covered area, and those cars went by, and I'd forgotten to bring ear protection. I swear I lost some of my hearing that day. It was because they were running D10s then, I think?
No, they were 12s. That was before they went
12?
D10. Yeah.
Okay.
Because now with the Kers, I mean, the electric stuff, they don't sound right. And those 12s just screaming at 18,000 RPM.
Oh yeah. God. Those things went by, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think my ears are bleeding. I couldn't believe how loud it was. It was that was pretty special. I hope they bring that back there sometime. I like COTA, but that's just a neat place to go to watch a Formula One race.
That, and I would love to see it brought back to the streets of Long Beach. Long Beach or Denver or any of the, like the city, like Monaco, to open up a city or to close down a city for those cars is just, and I missed it last year. They had one of the Red Bull cars went up to Hollywood Boulevard and did a little thing. And I saw it after the fact, like, what? Because just to listen to those F1 cars makes me proud.
1975, I was a junior in high school, and I went up to Long Beach because, again, I was in Southern California, and got back pit passes.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's dad was some biggity muckety muck guy. He knew the guy doing the thing. Yeah, I mean, you think about the guys that were running back then, those were like the stars. I mean, 75? Like,
rock stars.
It was insane.
James Hunt. Yeah. I mean, those guys are, rock stars, smoking cigarettes, long hair. I mean, come on. They were. Well,
last night, I don't usually watch TV, and last night I was just kind of, I'm going to zone around. I turned on the TV, and guess what was on? Rush.
Okay.
So my wife walks in, and she goes, okay, I've lost you. Goodbye. She goes, yeah. So you watch that.
Is it Wild? What's the girl's name in it? Olivia. Whatever she is.
Movie?
Yeah.
Oh, that plays Niki Lauda's girlfriend or wife?
Hunt's girlfriend.
Oh, the movies. Yeah, I don't know. She's
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
love that
good.
70s.
Yeah, but you think about 76. The year after that, 76, the year I graduated from high school, is the year that Lauda was injured so badly in that terrible crash. So that was the next year. But yeah, seeing Lauda run and Hunt, I mean, all those guys. I didn't realize what I was seeing back then as a kid. I mean, I liked it, but it was like you didn't realize these guys are legends. I mean,
legends, yeah.
Yeah, and there's that one part that they would come around a corner and kind of come over and then down this little driveway kind of thing. And I remember there, I had my camera, and somewhere I've got some old Kodachrome slides I took of that. I need to find those. I hope they're still somewhere. Yeah, and have those things go by and just kind of stuck the air. But you were mentioning the good guys event at Del Mar. They also ran the Can-Am type races, the Del Mar races, where they'd have the LMP type cars and stuff.
Could you imagine them bringing Can-Am back with those big monster engines and no rules, and just Can-Am was so cool also.
I know. Oh, it's scary. They're just gnarly cars. I was just talking. Well, our mutual friend Terry Wilson.
Yeah.
He called me on Sunday I was working in my yard, and I kind of took a break, and I fell asleep on the deck. Don't tell my wife I was supposed to be working. And the phone rings, and I kind of woke up, and I'm like, well, what day is it? Yeah, Terry. And we were talking about that. Can-Am cars, remember the Shadows?
Oh, my God, yeah.
I mean,
Those are super rare.
yeah, super scary. If you look at where you're sitting in that thing, I can't believe those guys ran those things for 2-3 hours on the edge, lap after lap. Those cars are just gnarly, scary,
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, I just
Full-on unlimited big blocks, and that's back when safety was really not even thought of. They didn't care about safety third.
no, it wasn't a thought. So they're fun, but yeah, just you think back all this fun stuff with racing, and I know these new electric, talking about electric race cars and stuff, and I know they go super fast, but I kind of like the noise. I mean that's part of the whole thing.
At the Good Guys on All American Sunday, you can bring in a Tesla if you want to. And some people make, those Teslas are stinky fast. Super fast, but they don't make any sense. But the Tesla lines up next to the Cobra. The Cobra I can feel in my chest. I can feel it living, and the Tesla just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, what is it? They call that ludicrous mode?
Exactly, yeah. Ludicrous speed.
That's another guy that I got to take my hat off to is Elon Musk. I mean, a guy that has just, it's super disruptor, revolutionized or changed the car industry so radically in such a really short period of time. Did what Tucker couldn't do back in the day because the big guys shut him down. But Elon figured out a way to do it. And I think, I'm trying to remember the stats. I read that, car sales because of this COVID deal are down like 71% right now in the last 3 months. It's horrible for the car market. But Tesla's doing fine.
I just read that Hearst rental car just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
I know. It's horrible. It's just horrible. Let me ask you guys, because I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but we'll start with you, Mike. I mean, how has this COVID thing affected you with your life and what you're doing?
Basically, a lot of people come to my website to look up a car show. Well, they're all canceled. So no, I'm not getting as many people to the website, obviously. And just to see all the shows, people sending me messages every day, this is canceled, this is canceled. It's just disheartening, if you're a car guy and you want all these shows. Everyone's doing cruises now. That's what everyone's doing. They've shifted to cruises, and they're getting out of the house and doing something. But
doing something.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that again, I talk about innovation and people being innovative. The Peterson had, I think now they've had 2 of them. They're virtual car shows, worldwide virtual car shows. In fact, I sent in a video on my Orange Crush, and they ran it on the first one, which was cool, where you send in a video. I know the Lemay Museum is doing something similar to that. So at least you could kind of, it's not the same. Yeah, Good Guys did.
Did your friend Bruce have anything to do with that Lemay Museum?
Not Lemay.
Okay.
Bruce Levin? No.
Yeah,
no,
because I know David Madera I met years ago was the president of Lemay, and he told me that the owner of Lemay was like a trash collector, would drive around the country.
Yeah, that's Harold Lemay.
Oh, okay.
When I moved up here 26 years ago to the Northwest from Southern California, I met Harold. Harold made his fortune in the trash business, just like Bruce Levin did, picking up trash. Yeah, only I don't think he ever threw anything away. I think he kept everything he picked up. He had the Guinness World Record largest collection of cars in the world at one point. He had massive, but it was more quantity versus quality.
The story I heard from David, if he would see something on the side of the road, I want it. Yeah. That's a piece of crap. I don't care. I want it. Take it back home with him.
He'd go out and buy a transporter and just drive around and look at farms and go, oh, there's one, stop, and go over there and buy it. So he had this massive collection. He didn't know where to keep it all. So he bought an old boys' military school and filled it with cars. The Olympic pool was full of cars. I mean, so when I moved up here, I heard of this guy and I met him. I met his wife, Nancy. I had lunch at their house. And he said, we'd like to have a museum someday. Well, we lost Harold years ago before the museum was ever built. But Nancy, with David Madera, got the Lemay Museum built. Very hard thing to do. They did it. It's a really cool museum. It's 15 minutes from my house. And they culled his collection down, got rid of all the junk basically, and kept the best cars, bought some other cars. They have rotating displays. Like they just, I think it might still be there, but of course they're closed right now. Yeah, Steve Saleen brought in a bunch of his cars. So they have rotating displays that come in like the Peterson does. So, but Harold Lemay was just a really unique fella. I mean, and in their house.
You reminded me of it when you said that Bruce was a trash guy. Like, wait,
well,
this
they both
sounds
were.
like somebody else. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what reminded me. So go ahead.
Yeah. Bruce's trash was up north in Seattle, and Harold's was down here in Pierce County, Tacoma area. And that company still exists. I think the family has sold it, but it still exists, and they still collect trash and But even when I was at their house, I remember like Nancy had the world's largest collection of Cabbage Patch dolls. I mean, just thousands of cabbage. They never threw anything away. They saved everything. So, but the Lemay Museum, when you guys have to come up here to the Northwest and visit me, and I'll take you to the Lemay Museum and I'll walk you through. They've got a great group of people. A longtime friend of mine, Renee Christ, takes care of it. There's a guy there named Mark who's the curator, and Chrissy is doing a thing with Kids Love Cars right now to try to bring kids into the automotive world. I'm going to start having some of those kids on my podcast. They're just a great group of people. Yeah, absolutely. But
that's been on my list for a while.
Yeah, it's a different kind of museum. It's not as, I'd say, as fancy as what the Peterson has become. But of course, for years, the Peterson wasn't fancy. I mean, it was an old department store that Robert Peterson gave to them to, hey, put some cars in here because I got too many to park at home, right?
Yep.
It looks amazing now. I'll tell you that. That looks like an amazing facility.
I had Terry Cargis. He's been on my show twice. He's the main guy in charge there. Michael Bodell, who's a guy that is their marketing guy who put on that whole show. And now they're going to do. Have you seen that they're trying to kind of do a car week in LA to kind of play off of the now canceled Pebble Beach car week? So they're going to do. The Peterson is going to do a full car week thing.
Oh, wow.
I'm not quite sure. Oh yeah, they just listed it this week actually, or maybe it was early last week. And you have to go check it out. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know how they're going to do it, and it all depends on how much they open things up. But
yeah, funny thing about
different.
them is within the last year, Peterson's been sending me press releases, so I haven't heard anything yet. But it's just,
I just saw it. I think may have just been yesterday. It's every day is the same. It's like. In fact, I have a Bose radio that wakes me up, and I'm going to put Sonny and Cher's I've Got You, Babe in there because it's like Groundhog Day every day. I wake up and I go, okay, is this stupid COVID thing over? Can we go back to normal life? And I refuse to use the words new normal. I'm not going to. No, I want to go back to the way it was.
Yep.
What's really funny is when you keep talking about all these trash guys. My dad told me a little story in high school. This guy was voted least likely to succeed, and then he ended up owning a trash company and being a multi-millionaire. Just so funny that all these guys are these trash guys, and they end up with huge car collections, millionaires, all sorts of stuff. So
well, Bruce Levin told me once. I asked him about the trash business, and he goes, "The trash business isn't about trash; it's about real estate." And I said, "Real estate?" He goes, "Yeah. You got to have somewhere to put the trash. You go outside of the town, you buy up a bunch of cheap land, and you fill it full of trash. And then as the city grows, that land gets worth more and more and more and more. And then you go a little further out of town, and you build a new hole to dump the trash in, and they start building buildings on the old trash piles. It's real estate business. It's like, remember being in business school and listening to Ray Kroc, that guy that founded that hamburger place,
Yeah.
Or he rebuilt the McDonald's brand. He didn't found it. That movie was pretty brutal.
Yeah,
that was a pretty brutal movie. But he spoke at one of my business classes once. And He came into the room and he said, I'm going to ask you guys, what kind of business is McDonald's in? And, hamburger? Nope. French fries? Nope. Milkshakes? Nope. We're in the real estate business. And if you think about it, they sold franchises and they owned the ground that all those stores were in. and they leased it back to those franchises. They were
And
in
I
the
believe,
real
from
estate
what I've
business.
heard, is that they do like a multi-year study of the area to figure where's the best place with the traffic flow and the this and that to put
Oh,
those
yeah.
locations in. It's like I had no idea.
Well, the real estate business is about what? Three things:
Location.
location,
Location.
location. And if you look at Starbucks, I mean,
Oh,
I live
dear
in a
God.
little place in, Gig Harbor's not a very big place. There's like 3 Starbucks on the same corners. So
Oh.
people don't have to turn left to
I
go in.
went to Seattle. It must have been 20 years ago, and we were in downtown Seattle, and on every corner there was a Starbucks, and it's like
Almost.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Starbucks. No, they're on at an intersection. Every
Yo,
single corner had a Starbucks. It's like
Yeah.
this is the work of Lucifer himself. Starbucks is evil. Get them out of here.
But if you think about, they did do those kinds of studies, because I worked for the first 11 years of my career in the advertising world, and most of our clients were commercial real estate developers. And I remember them talking about, this was 30 years ago. Ugh. And I remember them talking about malls or strip malls or shopping centers and how they designed them. And they always had their big anchor grocery store, drugstore, and who was in the middle? Starbucks. Because people would go to the grocery store, they'd have to walk to the drugstore, and they'd go right past Starbucks, and they'd stop and get a coffee. And that was part of this was early days, way, way, way back. And that's how real estate developers decided where to put stuff. Is
Just like in the grocery store. Where do they put the milk? All the way in the back.
Way in the, yeah, I know. And every time I walk by the cookie aisle, oh, look at those Milanos. I want a bag of those.
I need some snickerdoodles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but, it's all a science,
Yeah.
It's SEO for real estate, search engine optimization for real estate. But it's an interesting thing, and it's a lot like what, you guys do with your business, I do with mine, is how do you pull people in that want to know who you are and can find you, and hopefully then you produce something that they find of interest for viewing or listening.
You're talking to Jeff about COVID. He's been really affected by it too, right, Jeff? I mean, you're missing all your events that you go to.
Yeah, I got my car was ready to go, but then I was ready to go on Friday night, and then Saturday morning I got a message from my buddy that all my events have been canceled, and then they get postponed or canceled and postponed. It's like, what do you have?
Well, you can't do anything. I've canceled 7 airplane flights now for events that I was.
Feedback.
Yeah, a little something. I thought somebody was starting a car up there.
It is over here, yeah.
Yeah, I had 7 events I was going to go to that I could either speak at or participate in, and of course, Car Week. This would have been my 31st year at Car Week, and the big question, of course, I had Wade Kawasaki on my podcast last week, and he, is a big part. Well, thank you, big part of SEMA, and I asked him at the beginning of the show. I said, "So Wade, will there be a SEMA this year? Because this would be my 31st year going." And at the end of the show, he said, "Right now, it's on." He said, if the government tells us to stop it, we'll stop it. But right now it's on. So
last week, somebody posted on Facebook about SEMA, and our friend Terry Wilson made a comment, is SEMA still going to be happening? It's like, Terry, you idiot. Of course SEMA is on like Donkey Kong. Oh, then I'll be there like Mario. Jeff's like, dude, what kind of question is that? Don't ask these questions. SEMA's on. Come on.
I know. Well, it's, we won't get into the politics of this because it's become nasty, but you just every day they tell you a different thing. So you just don't quite know what's going on. But I do know that those of us who love to go to shows and love to share our cars and love to meet, and it really is about the people you meet. I mean, Jeff, these events you go to, it's the people that you meet, right? I mean, that's the best part.
The last few years at SEMA, it's like I walk in, I've seen that car and that car and that car and that car, but I haven't seen you. And you and you, and you're my car family, and we had this quarantine cruise in Huntington Beach 2 weeks, whenever it was. And it's like, the cars were cool, don't get me wrong, but it's like to see, I hadn't seen Nick LaCade, I hadn't seen Matt, I hadn't seen all my car guy friends this year. So it was just, it's cool to see my friends.
Yeah. Well,
you missed Doug and Marissa. You missed Doug and Marissa.
I did. I missed them there. Yeah.
Marissa and Doug. You talking about Marissa and Doug?
Yeah, Marissa and Doug. Yeah, they were down there.
I said Marissa.
Oh, we missed each other. Yeah, wait. Trish and Bruno. That's who their doppelgangers are.
Yeah.
Well,
But Mark, I've never been up to Pebble Beach for the concourse.
What?
When I go, I haven't. When I go, I'm going to call you up because I know you said you were at the airplane hangar, and I'm going to be your plus one, or I'm going to be your valet, your assistant, whatever the hell it is. I want to get to that hangar. I want to get to the Monterey Historics at Laguna, and I want to get onto the. I want to hang with you at Pebble Beach, my friend.
Well, the thing to do, the thing that has become crazy at Pebble Beach is the folks at Haggerty host a lot of the events up there, and they host what's called Dawn Patrol. Now, you're down there in Southern California. Dawn Patrol for me means early morning surf session. I grew up with a paper route. I'd go surfing, and then I'd go to school with eelgrass hanging out of my ear and sand in my slipper, my sandals, and that was my life as a kid. So Dawn Patrol meant that. Well, Dawn Patrol at Pebble means at 5 a.m., and it's still dark, you're on the lawn. Haggerty and their team are there serving coffee and donuts, and you're waiting for the cars to start to come in to the concourse. And they started this thing probably 12 to 14 years ago where they would give away a Dawn Patrol hat. Now, back when they started, there was only maybe 50 of us at Dawn Patrol. Now,
from what I understand, the Dawn Patrol is what it's for is if there's a tie between two of the cars, if one of the cars didn't go on the drive. Oh, I thought this was okay, go ahead. Okay.
No, that you're talking about the Pebble Beach Tour, which takes place on Thursday.
That's right. Sorry.
The Pebble Beach Tour, and I got to ride in the tour for my first time ever last year.
Cool.
Stephen Plaster, who owns Inner City Car Transportation Company, and his wife, Amy, I had tweeted out, I texted out or Facebooked out the next day saying, I've never been able to ride in the tour. I've been going for 30 years, 29 years, actually it was 30 years. I've never been able to ride. Does anyone have a spare seat for me? And so I get there at 6:30 in the morning. All the cars are lining up by the polo field. And, it's like fantasy land. And again, Haggerty's there with donuts and coffee and all your friends and new friends. And I get this text, and it's from this woman named Amy. And I'm like, Mark, we have a ride for you. Find the yellow 1913 Rolls Royce. And I'm like, what? And so I start looking, and I'm with some buddies. We drove over there, and I said, here's the keys to the rental car. You're not going to see me again today. I'm going on the tour. You can take the rental car and go do whatever you want today. So, because the thing is to go to the beginning of the tour, watch the cars leave, and then go into Carmel. And at noon, they all come into Carmel. They block the whole streets. They fill the whole main Ocean Avenue, and they have lunch for the participants. So I find this yellow car, and I text her back, I'm here. She walks up, Stephen Plaster, he's been a guest on my show, and they say, we want you to ride with us in this car. Yellow 1913 Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. Beautiful car. And if you've never ridden in an old pre-war car, it is a whole nother experience. I got to ride up front with the driver. They were in the back. And it was, I still get goosebumps. It was like the coolest thing ever. Yeah. And everywhere you drive, there's people lining the roads the whole way. And you drive down
it's like
south.
the Hot Rod Power Tour, but they're pre-war $1 million cars.
Well, all the way up to the cars they have. So, I mean, everything from Ferraris are there, Lamborghini Miuras to 1913 Rolls Royces. It was so much fun.
Cool. That's awesome.
But if you participate in the tour, you get a green ribbon. And on the morning of Sunday at Pebble Beach, you put your green ribbon on the car. That means you were in the tour. So if in your class there are two cars with the same number of points and the other guy didn't go on the tour, you win.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah. But Dawn Patrol is this thing with these, and they started this thing with these hats. Well, these hats have become coveted. Everybody wants their Dawn Patrol hat. I have every one from year one. And so now when I go, it's like, I have to get my hat. I can't stop this. And it's become so popular that the poor people at Haggerty are like, how can we do this without creating a mob? Because a few years ago, they had a truck there and they opened up the back to give away the hats. You've never seen so many millionaires fighting for a stinking baseball cap. It became bedlam. I mean, it's pretty well-heeled crowd on the lawn at Pebble, right? I mean, the tickets are over $400 a pop now. So people were going nuts. So they said, okay, we got to do this different next year because this was crazy. And so now what they do is they have a whole team of people and they'll take 10 hats and put them under their jacket, and they'll just walk around. And they'll come up to you and go, "Hey, Mark, want a hat?" Real quiet. And you go, and they'll pull a hat out and go, "Thank you." And you walk away with your hat. I actually had some old dude take a hat off my head and walk away with it. Yeah, they had handed me the hat. I put it on, and this guy reaches around and grabs it off my head. I'm like, "Come on, dude. It's Pebble Beach, for God's sake. We're not in Compton."
Wow.
You know?
That was
So,
your-
yeah, so at any rate, it's become this coveted thing, the Dawn Patrol hat, and to be a part of it is like a thing now. But it's just super cool. And I've been taking my kid to Pebble Beach, my son, since he was like 8 years old. And I think it was his second year. They used to unload the cars up at what used to be the polo field. Now it's a pitch and putt or something. It's some kind of golf thing now. And you would go up there Thursday before the tour and meet people. Well, my son is really great about meeting people, and even at his young age. And he comes over and he goes, Dad, this guy's invited me to drive onto the lawn with him in his car. I'm like, I've never even done that. I want to get out of here, you know. And so Sunday morning, Blake, at 9 years old, comes rolling in a British Racing Green Jaguar D-Type. Gets to ride into the lawn. It was so cool, you know. And it's again, goes back to people sharing their cars, sharing experiences.
And sharing their passion, because now your son's hooked on he got a D-type, dude. That's history.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he still talks about that. He goes, Dad, have you ever ridden on the lawn yet? I'm like, no. But I can say I've been on the tour, and I hope I get invited again by somebody, because it is a very special thing. And I'd never seen it from that perspective before. So, but that whole car week, you know, to talk about with you, Jeff, there's a way to do it. And I have a good buddy of mine who is named Steve Bernstein. We grew up together in La Jolla. We surfed together. He went off and became a surgeon and left. And we reconnected actually at SEMA. I was at SEMA about 4 years ago. And he goes, "Hey, Mark, I'm at SEMA. You remember me?" I'm like, "Yeah, Steve." And he said, "You know, I'm a surgeon now, but I'm a car guy." And he ended up getting into SEMA, and he made me a deal. He said, "Look, if you can get me into all these events with media passes," because he goes, "I'm really into photography. That's going to be my post-surgery career when I retire from being a doctor." And so he takes some killer shots. So I get him into all these racing events around the country. He goes and shoots for me. He didn't charge me anything. Just I get him in, backstage, like what you want, Jeff. And then he sends me the pictures, and I can share them. And yeah, Power Action Photography is his side company, and it's been really fun. So I took him to Pebble, not last year. He couldn't make it, but the year before. And I told him, I said, "Look, we could arrive on Monday. We stay there for 7 days. We go home on the following Monday." I said, "This is going to be nonstop from early morning till night." And after about day 3, he was like, "Oh my God, I'm worn out." Because we start early. There's 14 shows you can go to. There's parties every night. Because I get media passes, I get invited to these private, I got to go to the Lamborghini party. They rent this palatial house right on the ocean on the 18th green. I got invited to the...
Well, the Lamborghini's one thing. Tell me about the aviation. The one with the old planes and the old cars
party
next to each other. The jet party.
Gordon McCall started the jet party, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago or something. Gordon was actually just a guest on the Buy, Sell, Hold podcast. So he started this thing called the Jet Party, which was, back then, it was kind of the launch. It was Wednesday, the launch to Car Week. Well, now the launch to Car Week starts on Tuesday with the Ocean Avenue Concours that Doug puts on. But the Jet Party is at the Monterey Airport. They bring in these private jets that you can go in and tour. And then they bring in all these cars, and now they have all these vendors. It's food. It's a very expensive ticket. I forget, hundreds of dollars to get in. They sell out every year. And I got invited last year by some friends of mine, Diane Brandon and her boyfriend. She was one of the first women to ever be a judge at Pebble Beach. She judges the Rolls-Royce and Bentley groups. And they invited me to be their guest at the show. And you go into this thing, and it's just, it's like the who's who. It's a bit of a showy show, but it's so much fun. They have the best food, the best drinks. I mean, you're walking into jets. In fact, that's where I met Danica Patrick years ago. She was standing in front of one of the private jets. She was I think the guy who owned the jet was a race team owner that she was running for, or maybe it might have been someone who owned GoDaddy because she was a big part of that thing.
Yeah.
And so I got to meet her, and So you can carry my surfboard for me. Yeah, we'll set that up.
Done and done. I'm your dude.
You know, the other show that's killer there is the Quail. Have you heard of the Quail on Friday?
Yep.
That show is like nothing you've ever been to.
And that's when the girls wear their big hats and their dresses.
Well, maybe. They do that at the La Jolla Concours, which we sadly had to cancel. They canceled. It would have been in April. It's going to be in September now, we hope.
Okay.
But, yeah, they have all sorts of flamboyant stuff, but they have restaurants that come in and set up around it. So your $450 or $600, I think it's $650 ticket now, something like that, gets you in all day. Super cool cars, cool people. It's very laid back. They have, if you're into cigars, they have cigar bars, they have caviar bars, they have gelato, martini. I mean, at the end of that day, you're just like, oh my God, you're like the big guy who's eating too much. It's like going to the cafeteria going, I got to eat everything, get my money's worth, right? But the Quail is another really special event. I mean, it's just, the whole week is full. And here's what's great about Car Week. There's all sorts of free events. There's the Works event, Porsche, all Porsche, thousands of Porsches. There's the Legends, BMW, German cars. There's the little car show that's out on the coast there. They have the Concours des Lemons, you know, the crummy lemon, the lemon cars. Of course, we neglected, you mentioned it, the Monterey Historics, which is now 4 days of racing.
Yeah, I need to go there and see those things eat up and down Laguna Seca.
That
amazing.
Event is really cool because you can go into the paddock area and see all the drivers, talk to the drivers. Yeah, it's the whole week. It's just so sad that it's, but next year it'll be even better. And if you're a Porsche guy,
I think bigger and better for everything. I think the car world is just gonna, everyone wants to get back and get out there. So I think it's gonna just explode next year. My prediction.
In a good way.
Absolutely.
In a good way.
It has to. I mean, it just has to, because there's going to be all this pent up anguish. It's just like, last weekend, starts on Memorial Day, they open the beaches and you see, people just went kind of crazy. I mean, you can't keep us locked up like this. It's not good for you. It's not good for your brain.
Especially with no proof of anything and changing the story over and over and like what? Okay, I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah, we won't go there because it'll.
Mark, thank you so much for giving for doing us the honor of coming on our show.
Oh, you guys are awesome. I can't thank you enough for being on the show, and I want to remind all our viewers today to follow me. Of course, I have all the social media stuff, so you can find me. That's funny. Got a call from Joe Gibbs. Wow, that's kind of cool.
Well, we're sitting here talking.
I've got two bigger names. I've got two bigger names on the. I'm just reaching out to him to be on my show. That's wild.
Joe Gibbs called you.
But no, I want
on Instagram.
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter. I've got 2 Facebook pages. The better yet, go to my website, click on the free book button, and I'll send you my free filler up book. It's an ebook that I designed and produced, and then you get your Cars Yeah shows and the Buy Sell Hold podcast I do with Keith Martin right on your mobile device. That's how most people listen to me. I'll send it to you every day. You can listen, but I can't thank you guys enough for letting me gab with you today and have some fun. This broke up my day very nicely. And you know what? It stopped raining and the sun came out. So I'm going to keep you guys around.
We could talk for hours. You just know you've met so many people, and with the 6 years you've been doing this. I mean, wow. A lot of what I call inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and I tell you, it's taught me some incredible lessons about people, about cars, and the importance of sharing this hobby that we have with people. And so I'll leave your viewers and listeners with this. If you're feeling down from this whole COVID thing and you're feeling depressed at any time, which we all go through those emotions, here's a little trick I learned from all my very smart guests. Stop and close your eyes and think about what you're grateful for. Do you not have COVID? Do you have food in your belly or in your refrigerator? Do you have a roof over your head?
I know maybe some of you may not have a job right now, but the jobs will come back. This economy will bounce back. I guarantee it. It's going to hurt maybe for a little while, but it's going to come back because we were firing on 12 cylinders. But here's how you get out of that mindset. Just think about what you're grateful for, because you cannot be disappointed and sour and angry and depressed if you're grateful, and there's always something to be grateful for. And that's one of the little secrets that I've learned from people. So I'm grateful for the time you guys gave me today. I don't have to think about COVID.
You know what else works? You know what else works when you get a little bit down? You go get your car keys and you go do a little cold start of the car and go ahead and smell that exhaust. Oh, man, it just makes me happy.
Yeah, no kidding. Take it out for a drive. Take it out for a drive.
Go for a drive, yeah. Thank you, you guys. This has been really fun. You guys are great. You're awesome.
Thank you, Mark. Find him at carsyeah.com, Cars Yeah on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. He's the Car Yeah dude. And don't forget to drink some wine with him.
Yeah. Well, go to Adobe Road and get some Racing Series wine. You're going to love it. It's tasty stuff. Then you won't be unhappy at all. Right? Thank you.
Thanks again, Mark. I look forward to meeting you in person.
We will, definitely. That'll be a part of it. We'll all be at SEMA. We'll all enjoy a meal or a drink together and have some fun. So think good thoughts, everybody. Be positive and be grateful.
Definitely. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye. See ya. Bye-bye.